Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wine and Web3 with Jana. I'm your host, Jana Kryline, certified wine geek and co-founder of dVIN Labs. I'm also your guide to the ever-evolving world of wine as a real-world asset. So buckle up. This episode is going to wrap up our Bordeaux series. This is a series that began with none other than the brilliant Jane Anson. No big deal. Shout out to Jane. We're going to be shifting our focus today kind of from the vineyard to the market floor, because in order to really understand Bordeaux's global relevance today, you really need to talk to the people who are moving the wine. So joined today, very, very excited to be joined today by Saïd El Yousfi. He is a top Bordeaux négociant and founder of Maison Wineted. Saïd's journey is absolutely incredible. It's so compelling. He grew up near Avignon, so surrounded by the vineyards of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, where his father actually worked the vines for over 40 years. And I think that early connection to the land must have really planted the seeds of a lifelong passion. Must have been his discipline and drive that really set him apart. Saïd actually earned his business and finance chops at business school in Bordeaux. And then he went on to become a chartered accountant and auditor at PwC, where he oversaw wine industry giants like Chateau Margaux, Coste Estornel, Louis Latour, and Dom Perignon. So again, the no big deal thing comes in here. Nice work, Saïd. And today with Maison Wineted and a collaborative acquisition of Château Saint-Laurent alongside NBA legend Tony Parker, Saïd is redefining what it means to be a négociant in 2025. So he really brings this rare combination of heritage, expertise, and a really global lens. So I think that this conversation is going to be just packed with insight. If you're short on time, as usual, we've got you. Here is the TLDR so that you can still walk away with all the highlights, even if you can't stay around for the full hour. So we're going to kick it off with a read on the 2024 Bordeaux vintage. We kind of covered this with Jane in episode 1 of the Bordeaux series. The vintage was structured and balanced and underpriced in all the right ways. So a very strategic entry point for serious collectors. And then we're going to explore what most people get wrong about Bordeaux's négociant system and how Saïd sees opportunity and pressure colliding in the current market. So that's going to get pretty juicy. We're going to talk about why Bordeaux is still leading the conversation, even as Burgundy, Napa, and Italy all gain ground. And obviously, how tokenization and digital tools like the dVIN protocol are reshaping how fine wine is sourced, traded, and valued. So I would say that this is kind of like part masterclass, part market map, but it's just the perfect way to close out the series. So very excited to introduce Saïd El Yousfi and kick this one off. I'm also going to be joined, of course, by my partner in wine, David Garrett, my co-founder at dVIN Labs. So let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to today's dVIN's live stream. My name is Jana Kryline, co-founder of dVIN Labs and certified wine geek. And today we're going to be doing a deep dive on one of my all-time favorite topics and regions, Bordeaux. So this isn't just an iconic region. This is like the beating heart of fine and investment grade wine. And today's all about the blueprint for how investment grade wine is traded, aged, and valued globally. Even though in 2025, it's very ripe for reinvention and innovation. So we're going to talk about that. And I'll just give you a little bit of a TLDR and then I'll get into intros. So today's session is going to be kind of like a part love letter to Bordeaux, but also part future forecast. We're going to be talking about how Bordeaux became the standard bearer for wine as an asset class, and where the cracks are showing in the model today. But most importantly, how innovations like tokenization, on-chain transparency, and new financial tools could actually strengthen what makes Bordeaux great while helping it evolve as I think Dave always says, I feel like it's you that always says this, Dave. It's an evolution, not a revolution. So I know I keep hearing that. It's got to be from you. And on that note, let me introduce David Garrett, my partner in wine and dVIN Labs co-founder, the brain behind the dVIN protocol. I know you know his face. He's probably the only person I know who can actually explain liquidity pools and Lafitte in the same sentence. So yeah, hi, Dave. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Jenna. Thank you. It's always great to be here on a Tuesday afternoon. Although I'm following your lead and not having a glass of wine today, saving up for tomorrow because we've got a big, fun Wine Wednesday tomorrow.
We have a fun Wine Wednesday about Germany tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. If you're
Who knew they made wine in Germany?
Who knew? Okay. On that note. Okay. The real treat today, though, is we have a very special guest, Saïd, with us today. He is a founding member of Club dVIN. So been with us. He's an OG, been around since the beginning, right, Saïd?
Yes, indeed. Lucky me. I'm here. I'm happy to be here with you. Hello, everyone.
Saïd is a négociant based in Bordeaux. He's also the co-owner of Château Saint-Laurent and the founder of Maison Wineted. So if you are into investment grade wine, this is someone you'll want to listen to because Saïd is not only incredibly plugged into Bordeaux's past and present, but he's also one of the most forward-thinking people we know in the space. So yeah, we are very happy to have you here, Saïd.
Yeah, thanks. Hello, Jenna and Dave. I'm really happy to be here with you and talk about a region that I am from Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but 20 years ago I had the chance to live in Bordeaux for my business school and then to create all this adventure. And I'm really happy today to talk about Bordeaux and what happened right now.
Awesome. Great. So if those of you who are watching live or listening later on the podcast, if you haven't already, we do have an episode. If you haven't already heard it or tuned in, we have an episode out about Bordeaux with Jane Anson, where we covered the 2024 vintage from a tasting perspective, but also we really dug into Entrepreneur and how that whole thing works. Today is not that. So today we're looking at Bordeaux through a totally different lens as a global market, and we're going to talk about Entrepreneur a little, but also supply chains, pricing, younger collectors, and why more wine insiders are thinking like fintech startups. So yeah, Saïd, I'm gonna cue you up.
Let's go.
Can you tell us a little bit about how négociants are adapting today, especially with pricing pressure, younger buyers, digital disruption? Like, what's exciting and what's keeping you up at night?
Good question.
Hopefully not too
much. First of all, just indeed, you had the chance to have a call with Jane. I just give my point of view about the 2024 vintage. I think people are really tough about this vintage. I had the chance to test at least 50 different chateaux, left bank, right bank. And for me, the 2024 vintage in Bordeaux is first of all, it's the best value for money for me, and it's the result of meticulous vineyard work in the face of complex weather. It stands out for its fresh and complex dry whites. The white is quite insane, elegant, and also accessible reds and reds, and balanced pure sweet wines. So this vintage showcases Bordeaux winemakers' adaptability and their ability to craft wines that reflect both their terroir and the year's unique character, and also yes, the idea of this 2024 vintage for me, and this is how I would say we sell it to our client, is that is ready to drink vintage in 2 years. When you will have it, you will enjoy this bottle from 2026, 7 to I think 2036, 37. So you have 10 years of pleasure comparing to 2022. And how today the one merchant handle this situation? First of all, before talking about the complexity of the Bordeaux, we call that la place de Bordeaux. First of all, we are living in a moment where in worldwide, all the countries, there is a crisis, and this never happened before. Usually, it was US market because of subprime. It was a Japanese market because of the currency. It was Asia because of a specific thing I forget, or Europe because of inflation. And today, yes, it's difficult to do some business. And the idea is that the chateau decided to see their prices. So if you compare to 2022, indeed it's less 50% in order to offer the possibility to everyone to have the chance to drink a Chateau Cheval Blanc. The chance to drink a Lafite. You know, the 2024 vintage, you will have it on the market in 2 years. Final price, it's going to be 500 euro. So people who were like, okay, now it's too expensive for me. I think having the chance one in your life to have the chance to test the Cheval Blanc, it's through this vintage 2024. So the chateau help us to find new consumer because of course the wine consumption worldwide is going down. So you need to educate the new generation with this new vintage. So it was the work of the chateau and the wine merchants. Now today, the idea of the wine merchant is to also buy the bottle, keep it in their cellar, and sell it at the good moment. So we help the final consumer financially by offering the possibility to pay in 1, 2, 3 times before it comes to the market. So it was, it's Bordeaux, it's an ecosystem quite complex, but for me, it's the first time that the producer, the wine merchant, the brokers between the chateau and the wine merchant try to find and to listen the markets and to find a way to spread the good word worldwide.
Okay, yeah. I mean, because we talked about this with Jane, right? And we were actually very specifically talking a lot about Lafite and Cheval Blanc, with pricing down, what is it, 25 to 30% for the 24 vintage. But she also said the quality is fantastic, especially among the producers. You know, who there's those producers anyway. We're talking about some of the best producers in the world, some of the best winemakers in the world. They have access to the best technology, the best teams. It's it's pretty interesting. I mean, what you're talking about with access is another thing, but just from a pricing opportunity perspective, sounds very interesting. So, but what's worrying you right now? I mean, it sounds like younger buyers are going to have the opportunity to come in. What is kind of keeping you up at night?
Me and my business all good, but I think for the other wine merchants, I think we need to be more creative, flexibility. Usually, Asia buying 30-35% of futures, and America 30%. Today, in France and in Europe, even in America, during the COVID breakdown, we went through and we became more rich. To sum up, we stayed home and the states give us cash. In China, which is 1/3% of 30% of the sales of Bordeaux, the breakdown was insane, and there is no help, no money from the China government, for example, and they went out the COVID with no money. So they decided to delete the non-important expenses like wine.
I think wine is a very important expense.
I know.
Maybe
and and in a,
If you ask my accountant, it's a pretty important expense for me too.
mine too. Mine too.
in USA right now, because of the new president who is changing his mind every morning, no one wants to they're thinking twice before buying wines. But for me, if you are clever, if you have a long-term vision, it's the vintage you need to buy. We talk about Cheval, we talk about Lafitte. Uh, if we can talk about also Figeac, they spent 25 million euros for the last cellar they did. So this chateau will always produce insane wine. So yes, I think you need to explain to the consumers that this is sad for me to not buy this vintage or to not invest on this vintage, because it's quite insane, easy to drink. Return on investment will be really, really important when we will go through this crisis. So it's tough. I'm quite aware that it's tough because a lot of wine merchants have too much 2021, 2022, and 2023 vintage on their portfolio. But for the wine merchant who succeed to sell this last three vintage, 2024 is for me the vintage where they will make a lot of money. So I am an optimist guy. It's tough. It's crisis for everybody this time. And yes, I think we are on the bottom. It's top and bottom, right? We are at the bottom of the crisis, and in the next few weeks, few months, the situation will be better, and it has to. If we talk about the Bordeaux system, the strength and assets of the Bordeaux system. Bordeaux, first of all, it's one of the most recognized names in the world of wine, with a capacity to produce large volume while maintaining a well-defined premium segment. And the Bordeaux distribution model, for me, is unique and efficient. Today, even if it's tough, I think we are all working together, the chateau and the wine merchants, La Place de Bordeaux, who allows for rapid global distribution of top tier wines, especially the Grand Cru. And we were talking also about investment, but um, uh, if we compare Bordeaux to Burgundy, for example, in Bordeaux, there is a transparent and liquid market with structured access for distributors, collectors, and investors. Uh, you know what are you buying, at what price. You can focus yourself for the next years. So for me, there is yes, the current market, there is pressure and there is kind of vulnerabilities, but I truly think that even if we are struggles in this difficult situation, Bordeaux will be there when the market will be back.
So, Dave, what do you think? Based on what we're building at dVIN and how we see the global wine market, not only in Bordeaux. I mean, Saïd is mentioning, of course, how efficient the distribution is through the Place de Bordeaux. I mean, the global wine market for investment grade wine in general is very fragmented and opaque. And what do you think importers and négociants are going to, in a real world scenario, going to be able to do better with dVIN protocol?
The benefits of tokenization, one of the biggest ones, is that it decouples ownership and possession, ownership and custody, right? Because the way it works right now is like, if I have a bottle of wine in my hand and I hand it to you and you walk away with it, it's now your bottle of wine, right? Because there's no deed of ownership. But by creating a deed of ownership, you can now have both ownership and custody, and those two can be different things, right? And so when you do that, instead of the traditional possession-based supply chain where I buy wine, somebody buys wine from the winemaker, and then they sell wine to someone else, and they sell wine to someone else. And what happens is you have this atomization process. And what that creates is, and for me, millions of little tiny puddles of liquidity around the world, right? So like finally, 2 cases of Chateau Lafite make it to Santa Barbara, and then the people in Santa Barbara can decide whether or not they want to buy it. What I think has proven to be successful in other industries around the world is when you unify that liquidity, when you have global unified liquidity, meaning every buyer can find every seller. It makes for a more efficient marketplace. It makes for a marketplace that isn't based on geography, that's more based on demand, actual demand. And I think it creates a little bit of a flatter supply chain, right? Probably less players, like between the winemaker and the end consumer. And I think that I in my opinion, that will create a much more efficient global marketplace. That's what it seems like to me. But I think that it's going to take some time. The wine industry's has worked the same way for more than 100 years, and I think that what we want to provide with dVIN are the tools, and then let the industry figure out how to use those tools to create more efficiency and hopefully more profitable businesses.
Yeah. And just to say, like, we're not here to blow up Bordeaux or the négociant system, obviously, right? We're here to future-proof it. And so we'll keep diving into that and sort of how we see, the connection between what Saïd is doing and what dVIN Labs is building. So we talked about Entrepreneur. I'm gonna kind of skip through a little bit of that. Is there anything else? Did we miss anything? Any major highlights from Bordeaux Entrepreneur in the 2024 vintage, or you feel we've covered it, Saïd?
I can add the last thing is that quantity will be one of the second lowest quantity in the history of Bordeaux. Production is from less 35% to less 70% from the chateau. So yes, I think it was a major last thing I want to add about 2024.
Okay, fantastic. So I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but I feel like we haven't maybe clearly painted the picture of how a Bordeaux négociant like Saïd, would work with the dVIN protocol. So let's give like one concrete example and then we'll move on. Dave, can you shed some light on how Saïd could implement our technology?
Well, look, I think the most here's one kind of interesting and exciting way. So, wine is one of the very few products in the world where the distance between production and consumption is measured in years. So, for example, like most things, most businesses, most industries in the world, product gets made and then it gets sold and then it gets consumed. And after it gets sold to the final consumer, then the money goes back to the producer and then they make more, right? And that velocity is what creates profit, right? The faster you move money, the faster you can produce products and sell them, the more money you make. And with wine, there's a problem, right? Two problems. One big problem is that you can only make it once a year, which makes it different from almost every other product in the world, right? Like even like people talk about whiskey and scotch and like kind of like they're the same thing, but they're not really. Like if you want to make more whiskey, you could just make more whiskey. You get more potatoes and you make more whiskey, right? Potatoes or whatever it is. I'm sorry, I'm talking about vodka, but you just make more. But with wine, it's really only once a year. And more importantly than that, with fine wine, you make it and then nobody consumes it for 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 10, 15 years. So that long period of time for right now, wine is like somebody has to sit on that asset. Somebody's got to sit on it. So either the winemaker is sitting on it, or the négociant is sitting on it, or an importer is sitting on it, or a distributor is sitting on it, or a merchant is sitting on it, or the consumer is sitting on it. But somebody has all of their asset, all of their money, their capital tied up in that wine from the moment that it's produced until the moment that it's consumed, right? And sometimes that's years, well, usually with fine wine, it's years and years and years. Sometimes it's 10, 15 years. So if you're a négociant like Saïd, you buy a bunch of wine and then you've got two choices. You either sit on it as it increases in value, or you sell it. And sometimes in the wine industry, unfortunately, stakeholders in the industry, whether it's the winemaker or the négociant or the importer or the merchant, they end up having to sell wine even though they know it's going to be worth more tomorrow. They've got to sell it today because they need cash to fund the rest of their business. Well, by tokenizing wine, it gives us the ability to do what every other mature industry in the world does, which is they can create liquidity from their assets, right? They can fund their their um, their operating expenses with debt or with credit against their assets. They can leverage their assets. With wine, it's very hard to do. It's incredibly expensive. It's very hard to do. It's because it's a possession. There's no deed of ownership. It's really hard to borrow money against something that doesn't have a deed of ownership. But by tokenizing wine, what Saïd could do is make better decisions about which wine to hold on to and which wine to sell, because he would never be forced to sell anything in order to create liquidity and cash flow. And, Saïd is a very good businessman and he's been in business for a long time. And I'm sure that he very rarely has to make that decision. But lots and lots of businesses, lots of négociants and lots of businesses in the wine industry do have to make that decision. What Saïd was saying just a little while ago, that lots of négociants are sitting on the 2021 that hasn't sold yet, which means that they don't have the money to buy the 2024, even though the pricing for the 2024 is great. Well, if they could borrow against their 2021 to buy the 2024, that would just make a much smoother, better global marketplace. And tokenization really does provide the ability for like very simple credit markets, competitive credit markets, to let people in the industry be able to lend or to borrow against their wine assets. So that's just one small way.
I feel like that's a pretty big way, but
okay,
it's
one way. Yeah, there are many, many others, but that's one.
Yeah. Okay. So instead of sitting on your inventory for 5, 10, 15 years and hoping that the market comes back around, you can start actually realizing value now. So that's pretty powerful. Okay. Saïd, how do traditional players in Bordeaux react because we've been working together for a few years now. How do people in Bordeaux react when you talk about things like blockchain or NFTs or smart contracts and global liquidity? How does that conversation usually go?
Okay. So first of all, thanks, Dave. I couldn't have said it better myself. So nice speech. And we had.
I've been listening to you for a long time, Saïd. Saïd is the galaxy brain that most of our ideas come from, right?
Come on.
dVIN, a lot of our smart ideas are downstream from conversations with Saïd.
Thanks. No, it's funny. At the beginning of our adventure, I was like, okay, is Bordeaux ready to listen? This and you're right, Gianna. I love your sentence. It's not about revolution; it's about evolution. And Bordeaux 5 years ago wasn't ready. Today, they're waiting for some ideas that Club dVIN is providing. And I think the strength of Club dVIN is various a lot of things that can help I would say Bordeaux to go through this crisis. To sum up, indeed, David, it's a real-time market that we can create through Club dVIN, and the possibility to have access to the famous direct-to-consumer sales from producers who are clearly booming. And today, all the chateau, all the wine merchants are more aware about it could be a new way to develop business and to do something like that. So they're more open-minded right now than 5 years ago. Because as you said, it's a legacy of 2 centuries, 3 centuries, Bordeaux, the chateau, the wine merchants. And we are at the beginning of something new.
Yeah. So I think the key takeaway here is that the role of the négociant, not only the roles of the négociants, they're not disappearing, they're evolving. And the most successful ones, like Saïd, over the next decade will be the ones we believe who blend in trust and tradition with the tools that meet the modern market, and where that market lives, whether it's online, on chain, and on demand. But yeah, let's kind of zoom out and connect Bordeaux to the evolving landscape. So we've been talking about Bordeaux and négociants, and there's a bigger wave happening in the wine world. Wine is no longer just for drinking or collecting, but it's actually becoming a real asset class. We always talk about it when we define the asset class. Overall wine we think is about a $1 trillion asset class based on real statistics and facts, but it's about $300 billion of investment grade wine as a market, and it's growing. But it's just full of friction, and this is what we talk about at dVIN all the time. We already touched on fragmentation, and in several of our other episodes and articles that have gone out, we talk about how trading investment grade wine can take days or weeks to settle. There's really high fees. You need brokers, sellers, trust, time, and usually you need a pretty decent Rolodex, something to get you in, or a connection to get you in. So for a lot of younger investors that are kind of coming onto the scene, even in the Web3 space, right, who are wine curious, but don't necessarily kind of know the landscape, that can be a real turnoff. So I think, and I know Dave thinks, this is a massive opportunity. So Saïd, you have like a front row seat to this. Are you seeing more non-traditional investors coming into wine? We talked about the consumption of wine going down. But yeah, any non-traditional investors coming into wine? Any major changes there?
Yes, because today, we have direct access to producer via digital wine marketplace like Club dVIN, and through this platform, fine wine pricing is visible, quite easy to understand. Of course, but like we are doing right now, a lot of podcasts, a lot of explanation, thanks to LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and they educate themselves. And there is an update about I would say, the wine industry in real time. And I saw for the last 4 or 5 years new investors, because today they can buy and sell wines as they would like. It's like a financial exchange, financial market. A lot of people from tech industry who become rich, they want to invest in other sector, not only watch, car, but fine wine is one of the top 5 um, ideas that comes directly in mind.
Yeah.
100%.
Even the crypto and tech bros are getting in, right? And our mission obviously is to open up that access even more, and help people kind of come into the wine scene.
Well, it makes sense, right? Scarce assets. Like when wine is consumed, it's like burn. It's like having a burn. It's like you're burning the token. There's only that scarce assets that are getting fewer and fewer. You can't make any more. There's no Fed to like go print. You can't just go print more wine in your 3D printer. So like scarce assets are there's a lot of similarities. People that think about Bitcoin or ETH or Solana or XRP are thinking the same way about wine. I mean, they really can look at it the same way. It's not even like watches or cars. Like, if Rolex decided next year that they wanted to make more watches, they could make more watches. But if Château Saint-Laurent decided they wanted to make more wine, they can't.
Complicated.
That's it. They can only make a certain amount of wine. It's limited by not only by geography and how many vines they have planted, but also by local statute. Like the local government in Avignon tells you how much wine that you can make per hectare. So like it's all very limited, and like real estate, they're not making any more of it. So like it's only going to be more scarce, which means that in a world with growing GDP and more millionaires every year, it's only going to become more valuable.
Yeah, forced scarcity. Turns out that's a pretty interesting thing for a real world asset. So the barrier to entry drops, liquidity increases, and the market grows for everyone. Dave, how do you see the future of wine investing evolving, and what's the role of Bordeaux in that picture?
Don't ask me, ask Bacchus.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to do I prepped for this call by spending a lot of time talking to Bacchus. So as everybody probably knows, Bacchus is we've been working on for over a year now. It's our like wine LLM. We've created a custom AI agent that has tons and tons of proprietary data on wine, including 30 years of trading data. It's kind of incredible what it can do. But I actually went and asked Bacchus to help me prepare for this call, and also I asked him what, based on everything you know about En Premier, what are the three best deals? What are the three wines that I would invest in that we should invest in for En Premier? And this is what it gave me. And I want you to score Bacchus. You tell me if Bacchus is a true like négociant, or if Bacchus is just a plonk trader. All right. Can you get on a scale of 1 to 10?
No pressure, Saïd.
Yeah, I'm listening.
So these are the three wines that Bacchus would invest in. The Lafite Rothschild, which it says is trading at about £3,400, a little over 20% discount from 2013. The second one was Osson, with a release price of about £3,700, which is a 28% drop from 2023. And the Girard La Rose at £516, which is this is the lowest release price since 2013. Would those three be in your top in your top 10?
The number 3. Can you tell me again the number 3?
Girard La Rose.
Okay, interesting. For sure, I will put Lafite and Ozon. Lafite, why? Because it's a liquid wine, really famous in Asia. And also the price is quite insane. The Rothschild family understood the market, and they were one of the first to release their price. So definitely for Lafite. Ozon, because for me, Ozon is the equivalent of Salon in Champagne or Romani Conti in Burgundy. Only 8,000 bottles per year. So it's really a sought after wine. And 2024, it's not a lot of bottles. So you need to take it, to buy it, to drink it, invest on it, do what you want, but you need to have ozone on your top 3, 5, 10, up to you. And the number 3, okay, interesting. Interesting. I don't know what to say. I would not put this on top 5, but why not?
This was just for investment purposes. So not for consumption, but something that would likely trade higher.
Okay.
And I think it's because the score to price ratio is what it's telling me is that because the release price was only 516, but Jane Anson gave it 93, Kelly gave it 94, that like it had a much lower price and a much higher scores than previous years.
Wow.
Anyways, I thought that was interesting.
Really interesting. Really. Wow. Okay. Good to know.
We're gonna hang up, and Saïd is like gonna be on
yes,
the
I need
call
to work on
with
it.
his broker, being like, "I'm gonna buy some cases."
My night homework.
Well, you should find us someone. Maybe we could do a drop for our members.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, let me work on it.
Love it.
All right. Good. Cool.
Okay, so anyone who doesn't know Bacchus, you got to check it out. Again, I've been giving this warning since, for a couple months now. If you're following Bacchus on Twitter, on X, it is Bacchus_dVIN. He's still a little sassy. He's getting less sassier all the time, but he is your Bloomberg terminal for wine. But the best place to interact with our AI at the moment is really on Telegram. There's an article that Dave put out on Sunday that kind of does a deep dive on Bacchus. So encourage everyone to go to news.dvinlabs.com and check out that long form article. If you're following us on Substack, X, LinkedIn, anywhere, it's going to be linked there. So you'll be able to get to it very easily wherever you're following us. But yeah, Bacchus is awesome. Wine Guy on Telegram. The handle is Wine Guy is basically your pocket Somm. Bacchus is still in beta. There's a couple beta tools on Bacchus on Telegram that we will be releasing very, very soon. But be sure to just check it out on Telegram. The handle for Wine Guy is @wineguy_bot. And yeah, I want to just kind of land the plane here though and sum up the kind of dVIN's future-proof plan for key players in the investment grade wine value chain like you, Saïd. So I would say, just to wrap it all up and tie it together, don't just sell wine, tokenize it, right? Because we want to unlock capital and reach a global audience, and we want to build for the future. So that is like the 3 lines that kind of sum up today's episode. But before we wrap, let's give our awesome producer Maureen a shout out and see if we've got any questions in the audience. Maureen, I'm looking at the chat. If there's anything there that you want to share, let us know. And anything else from you, Dave? Oh, we've got one right away here. Château Saint-Laurent question for you, Saïd, from Larry. Hi, Larry.
Hi, Larry.
When is the next vintage of the Château Saint-Laurent for the NFT allocation token holders coming?
It's going to be the white vintage 2024.
Ooh.
Yes.
And when are we expecting that?
I think the next few weeks. Okay. It's going to be, coming soon. Thanks,
All
Larry,
right.
for the question. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry. Great. If there isn't anything else, anyone watching this live or tuning in later to the podcast, feel free to always put your questions in the comments anywhere that you're tuning in, whether it's in Substack or YouTube, X, wherever you're watching or listening. Feel free to leave a comment or just leave us some love. We love that. And that is a wrap. Huge thanks, Saïd, for joining us.
My
and Dave.
pleasure.
I think that was good. We're in time. 2 minutes under, never happens. That's fantastic.
It's very exciting.
Gives me
Saïd, I'm going to see you for dinner on Thursday, right?
Anytime. Yes.
Bring a bottle of let's find a bottle of the La Rose and see if we can see what we think.
Okay.
Not the 2024. Let's get like the 2013.
Okay.
Let's see if we can find it.
Yeah.
All right.
We work on it.
When Dave says, let's see if we can find it, he means, let's see if you can find it. And I'm really sad I'm missing that dinner. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
everybody.
Jenna. Thank you, Dave. See you
Thanks,
soon.
guys.
Bye, everybody.
And that is a wrap on this episode of Wine and Web3 with Jana. Thank you all so much for tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a podcast somewhere, or Spotify or Apple Music. Huge thanks to Saïd for sharing his story and his sharp market insight and fresh lens on how Bordeaux continues to shape the future of wine. If you're enjoying this series, please make sure to follow us on socials. Our handle is dVIN Labs everywhere. So that's DVIN LABS. And please smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday. We do a really fun and casual Wine Wednesday live stream. So you will find that on our X account and on our YouTube live streamed. We've recently made a change. We are now going live at 5:30 p.m. Central European time. Used to be 5 p.m. We just changed that last week. So if you've been hanging around and wondering, where we are, we're not 30 minutes late. We just realized that there's a lot more viewers at 5:30 who want to sip with us. So hope to see you there. Bring a glass, bring your questions, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks, guys. Cheers.